Hey y'all, happy May Day, May 1st. Stellar time, springtime. Hope you're holding up. Hey, today I'm going to talk about real simply what Jake gets from his woman and Tom doesn't. And this applies to the bigger question of how a man gets what he wants in his marriage or his relationship. So it's real simple. It's so simple that you're going to be like, really? Really? So it's just this, and I'm going to tell you in a moment. There's this one thing that he does, okay? And I'm going to talk about that one thing, the three obstacles to him doing it, and the fears he may have that stop him from doing it, the three things he thinks he's doing, but he's not really doing, three ways he can do it, and that do it is that one thing he needs to do. And then at the end, I'm going to talk about tips for women, if there are any women tuned in. And these also relate to men in the conditions of marriage today. So, what's the one thing that Jake does that Tom does not to get what he wants in his relationship or from his woman? Again, it's going to be so simple. You're going to be like, really? I tuned into this? But what's juicier is the three things that stop him from doing it. So, the one simple thing is this: he asks for what he wants. That's it. He asks for what he wants. And yet there's more to it, as I'm going to talk about here in the next few minutes. For those who are tuning in right now, we're talking about how a man gets what he wants from his woman or in his relationship versus the man who does not. And I just mentioned it's real simple. He asks for it. Okay? So for those who are tuning in on Facebook Live, feel free to just like this page. For those who are going to be watching the YouTube broadcast, if you dig what you like here, please click subscribe to the lower right. So why would a man not ask for what he wants from his partner, his wife, his woman? And again, this could apply to homosexual couples, but I mostly work with heterosexual couples. The three fears to not asking for what he wants, the three obstacles are simply this: a fear of getting a no. Okay? He's been asking in sideways ways, maybe for months or years, and he thinks he's been asking for what he wants, but he hasn't been. And I'm going to talk about the three ways that men often do that. Okay? Think they're asking for what they want, but they're not actually doing that. So he doesn't ask for what he wants directly, truthfully, honestly, authentically, because he fears getting a no, because he's gotten signals for a while now. Could be years. I mean, I've worked with men who have been in marriages for over a decade in this dynamic of not being able to have that kind of communication. So the fear of getting a no, which is really based on the fear of the conflict. Like, oh, I asked her and, it's always the same thing. And, she's not interested and she doesn't really want to hear my stuff. Okay. So that's number one. The second reason why a man fears asking for what he wants is the fear of losing love. The fear of being deeper in the doghouse. He's like, oh, if I bring that up again, then it's done. I'm definitely not getting any intimacy, touch, sex, connection. It ain't happening, so I don't want to start that again. Okay. So the fear of losing love, the fear of being deeper in the doghouse with her. Okay. The third reason why he fears asking for what he wants, okay, is simply this: the fear of change, the fear of uncertainty. Okay. Well, what if he actually has to do a little bit of work now and she's asking for things of him? And let's face it, many of us will live for years in the comfort zone, even as uncomfortable as it is, but because it's safe and we know it. We have this normal where I don't ruffle the feathers and she does what she needs to, takes care of the kids, does her work. We kind of share some house duties. So we get to share that piece. And I don't want to shake things up. So I mentioned before, three things he thinks he's doing in asking for what he wants, but is not actually doing. And I'm going to mention those three things right now. One is bitching to others, venting. That has the energy as if he's actually asking for what he wants and doing it. Well, he's asking for what he wants, but with the wrong people. Because obviously, if it's not directed to his partner, he is not going to have the capability of getting what he wants. So that whole bitching, venting, I mean, shit, the amount of times I've sat at a bar and listened to dudes talk about their marriages and, oh, she's so busy. She don't even know I exist. So I have compassion for that sob story. And yet, out of fierce love for men and women to get what they want, to be happy in relationship, I have empathy, I should say, and compassion, but little patience at a certain point. It's like you need to step in. The second thing he thinks he's doing to ask for what he wants, but he's not really doing, is he's complaining to her. He's saying things like, oh yeah, like, the classic sarcasm, like, yeah, we'll see if we get lucky tonight, or, yeah, baby, I'll wash the dishes, but, maybe a little touch later. This is like false blackmail, and what he's doing is just barbing her. And she does it to him, and I've watched this for years. I've seen older couples literally do this for 20 to 30 years. And yet, why do they stay married? Well, till death do you part. It's this forced compliance as opposed to marriage as a choice, and a choice to ask for what you want. The third reason why he doesn't ask for what he wants, and I mentioned this prior, is he settles. He just settles into this comfort, this norm, and it's just easy for him. And even though it's really challenging and uncomfortable and difficult, he still does that. So, 3 ways for a man to ask for what he wants. Feel like he has some tips and tools. Number 1, ask for permission. Say to your wife, say to your partner, hey, I want to talk to you. Can we have this conversation? Instead of blindsiding her with complaints or venting, hey, can we create some time and space to talk about something that's been important to me? And, is now a good time? No, let's talk later. So asking permission to have the conversation, because when you ask for permission to have a conversation, you now have somebody who's listening, okay? As opposed to when you're making side comments or venting, she is not listening. So you're sitting down with her, you're looking at each other eye to eye, and you're having this conversation. Second way to ask for what you want in your marriage or relationship, I statements. You don't say you. If everybody shuts down, once we start saying, listen, you're not open to me, and we haven't had sex for 3 months, and you're always working, okay? You're not going to get anywhere with that, okay? She's going to shut down, and I don't blame her. Who the hell wants to be blamed for a problem that's half your fault? So, speaking in I statements, okay? Instead of, you never open up to me, you never want to have sex, take a moment to, what's going on, Suddy? What are you feeling? Oh, well, shit, it feels like I feel really distant from you, and I don't like that. I want to feel more connected to you. So tying it into your intention of I love you. And if you are a dude who's just looking for a dick receptacle with your woman, you got to look at that shit, because I think you married her for more than that. And how do you tap into the greater qualities that maybe you've forgotten because you spent so much time not asking maturely, responsibly, in a connected way for what you want? So using I statements instead of you. Third thing, concrete requests, okay? You start to open up the channel for what you're wanting, whether that's, hey, I'd like us to spend some more time just sitting together and talking, and yet I also realize that sometimes after a long day, I'm talked out. Just maybe sitting on the couch together, reading, holding, touching. And for a lot of women, it's like, oh no, there's the red flag. He's just wanting to go towards sex. He starts with touch, and then he goes after my boobies, and then he goes downstairs. And And she's just like, So how do dudes deal with that? Okay. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the conditions that many married couples find themselves in what I call this post-feminist era. And in this post-feminist era, it's what I love what Esther Perel says in Mating in Captivity. She talks about it, it's a tough word, hegemony of talk intimacy. It means the only way we can be intimate is by talking, okay? And the reality is a lot of women have a much greater capacity to talk and emote and connect through talk intimacy, okay? And think that's the only way to be intimate. So I'm going to speak a little bit about that briefly. And these are the conditions that many men find themselves very frustrated with in their marriage. It's like we can't be physically intimate until we've talked a bunch and been connected. And I did live that for a long time in my marriage, and I struggled to break through with that. And so here's a quote: "The hegemony of the spoken word has veered into a female bias that has for once put men in a position of inferiority." How's that land on you? The hegemony of the spoken word has veered into a female bias that has for once put men in a position of inferiority. I want to be clear, this is written by a woman, okay? A very powerful woman who was willing to see through women's excuses about intimacy, about physical intimacy. And hegemony, it just basically means the domination. The domination of the spoken word has put men in a position of inferiority often. Not to say that guys are dumb and guys can't talk smartly and wisely, but often, and really in our evolution too, men were trained for two instincts. I don't want to go off the rails on this, but Ken Wilber, international philosopher, once said men were trained to fuck it or kill it. Okay? If you think what men had to do for years before the technological industrial times, and they were out there killing stuff and then fucking to procreate, whereas women were raising the families, connected, etc., and their job was to emote, to relate to it. And I totally applaud that women have these amazing creative occupational opportunities and can step into their power. But have they fully lost connection with their body? And here's another piece that Perel says in Mating in Captivity that really struck me. In just a sec here. And she talks about what is far from seeking, let me go here. Yeah. So far from seeking a selfish discharge, a man often longs for union. Far from seeking a selfish discharge, a man often seeks for union. And really in her work and in my work, we talk about intimacy fluency, like how is the woman going to get more into her body, okay, and being superwoman, taking care of the kids, whether she does house chores or not. And I know today a lot of men are doing house chores as well, but for both of the couples too, if you're being superheroes, kids, cleaning, work, where and how do you prioritize each other? Okay. And how do you get into your body? Okay. So it's not getting rid of talk intimacy, okay, but bringing online touch intimacy, physical intimacy. And it's not always just sex, okay? Often it's just stroking the inside of a woman's wrist. Often it's a massage. Often it's holding and hugging, okay? What if a couple was to say, a married couple who's super busy and stressed out, that we're going to spend 10 minutes after dinner just holding each other. No talk, just holding. And over time, we see the physical channels open up. Okay. and a woman's honoring a man honors his woman. There's energy brought to the marriage, energy brought to the relationship. And the one thing women often forget is that without the man, without the strength of the union, the family is at much greater risk of falling apart. Okay? Think about that. When the children become the center and we spend so much time trying to make the children happy, how can we be happy? How can we be happy in our marriage? So again, a recap here. I was talking today about the one thing a man can do to get what he wants in relationship. And again, it was simply ask for what he wants. If you weren't able to watch this whole thing, I also spoke about the 3 things that get in the way of him doing that, the 3 things he thinks he's doing when he's not, and the 3 ways to do it. And I'll recap those. Ask for permission for the conversation. Speak I statements, not you statements. Make concrete requests. Hey, let's make time Tuesday for 15 minutes or half hour, okay, to just be together. So I'm going to pause here and, well, not really pause. I've been trying to keep these a little bit shorter. We've been going a half hour lately. I'm going to cap this one off in the next minute or so. If there's any comments or questions, let me know. I did get one ahead of time from Bill in Cincinnati. And he just said, I'm in a lot of pain. I'm scared. I don't know if my marriage has any hope. I don't know how to talk to my wife about it. So, Bill, if you are listening out there, a lot of compassion. I've been there. And I also want to ask you, are you willing to step up, to ask for what you want, and to communicate to your partner what you spoke in your email, okay? Without an expectation of results or consequences, but just to connect and get clear on the love, the connection, the marriage that you want with your wife. So I'm going to wrap up there. My name's Stuart Matola. If this pulled you in and you are a man who wants to get what he wants in his relationship, that's what I do. I do it for my clients. I do it every day. And check out my website. All you got to do is start a conversation, and I'll let you know in a quick chat if I feel like I can do that for you, because there's some men who I don't feel like I can, and there's some men who I feel like I can. So if you are interested in hearing more of this, I'm doing these every Friday at 9 a.m. Check out my Facebook coaching page, or you can click, if you're watching the YouTube broadcast, lower right, click the red subscribe button. And thanks so much for being here. And again, my mission is to help men get what they want in relationship in life so that they may play big, kick ass, and love fully. Have an awesome day.